It's January 24th, 2024. Yesterday was January 23rd. Lewis took me to, we went to go see the Salvation Army, um, for whatever we do there. I don't know why they call it that. I don't know what they're involved in. For our purpose, it was donations um, of different goods and services, and then you go there. It's almost this to avoid the landfills, estates and things. They donate their goods, and then people can go in and purchase them there at a discount. Um, so it has like an environmental aspect to it. So he took me to the one in Woodside, but that was closed. And it had the word thrift store outside it. It wasn't even properly designated as Salvation Army, which was confusing. Um, then he took me to Elmont. Now, when we went to Woodside, which is inside of Queens, close, like enough in driving distance to where we live, um, there were I mean, we're in the middle of this migrant crisis, coming up from the south. So they say they're going through a person by the name of Abbott, who is the governor in Texas. Um, and I'm in post 9/11 New York, whatever that means. So they so I went there, and I'm just in the car like I was when I was in New Hampshire with the people I prefer to be with. Um, and I'm looking out the window, and wrapped around the building are all of these persons, um, male persons, um, and they have like their faces covered. They were not necessarily in an aggressive stance, although the block was lined with them, all standing outside with nothing to do. Lewis says that they were looking for work. I don't know what that means. Um, but then when I come home, and and I mean, again, and they're of some other foreign nation or foreign land. I don't know which. I don't know how to describe it. And then I come home and I look to watch the news as to what's going on for an update. And it says new U.S. airstrikes inside Iraq. And I'm like, um, again, when they show the images on the TV with their faces covered. Um, so there's that. Then we went to Elmont, which is where my mom grew up, and all the signs are in Spanish for the most part. Um, but what's walking on the street again? It looks almost like third world nation, like underdeveloped countries, and like pieces and parts have been shipped into Queens and are now like existing in this degradate level. Um, I don't know where they came from. And then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, all right, so there's land, there's air, there's sea. So there's shipping and cargo lines that could be fighting. Then there's the railways. And then it's that foolish investment in gasoline powered vehicles for just anybody. And then there's this air travel problem that's now going on. I'm like, oh, I remember when they talked about air travel when I was a kid. They were like, oh, travel the friendly skies. And then there was like that part of the friendly skies where it turned not so friendly. And all of a sudden they were taking hostages and blowing up the airplanes. but not in like necessarily domestic travel, or at least it wasn't spoken of domestically. That was all the international terrorists. Um, then I come to find out now Donald Trump, the big Republican, is up against this Nikki Haley. They're very, very careful. They were in Iowa, then they were in New Hampshire, and they were really careful. So, like, again, like battlegrounds of like, I don't know what red and blue means, but like the stripes on the flag are red and white. I'm just saying, with some stars. And then, like, but I don't want to like upset whatever blue means, because again, this is part of it's not a coronation like everybody's. And then, but like, so that seems like Wyoming's territory near touching, like, landlocked by Iowa, and then something more touching the water in dangerous powerful men category, for which I'm just a quiet lady letting the men do the fighting, and just being their humble, respectful daughter, whomever these men are, because of the situation I arrived to in New York and the lack of opportunity that I was offered. And so there's like, then like thinking of the Rhode Island gymnast and just how they were caring for him, and how I'm not as fortunate, let's just say. And then there's like this thing I hear of like the people with big hearts at the church. They speak of these people that exist that I've never met, that have these big hearts, and they have plenty of money and opportunity. They can open a door for anyone around the world, and that they exist somewhere, and that they start missions and they try to pass their good fortune and blessings forward. And I am like, where does that level of person exist for me? Like, because I just don't see it. I i i see lots of boastful things that have been really successful, like within the sports community, basketball, football, like the American version of it, within the two coastlines, like, just like to define the territory that I'm speaking on, not to rile up or disrespect or upset anyone that might have a shipping and cargo line, that then whatever's going on with the rail system, and like what's up and up, like, is again, now I just learned there's something about a Union Pacific, and I'm like, right, and then there's an Amtrak, but then there's a couple of other lines I don't even hear of, because again, the boards I've been not even invited to, and wherever they exist. And I mean, I could have just been an assistant, like a nobody, like running around with a notepad and a pen, like taking notes and being someone's executive assistant. Like, I didn't have to be like, really special. Although, again, I wound up having one of these very special children in a really RH sensitive category. And like, their Atlas has 7 sisters. I know that. And I am really careful that it is not a coronation. They keep saying that really loud. It is a presidential nomination between Nikki and Trump. And like, again, I know not to disrupt like the head of things, but like where Superman exists, and like I'm the, like, how do I just respectfully follow Superman around and like not try to get in his way because he's all powerful and whatever, but like still not get completely railroaded or like tsunamied over between water and land issues. I mean, and then having children and gardening is important. And it's just, I, it's just been a lot of lack of resource and lack of opportunity for myself personally. And I'm not quite sure why. And then I see these things on the television, and it's not getting better in this area. It seems to be getting worse. Um, and like, I don't know where chain of command is. I don't know what the respectful process is. Again, it was, and then I see on the television this one woman talking about razor wire, um, and talking about that they wrote policy when she was in law school. And I'm like, so you knew that they were going to be sending these migrants and causing this crisis? Where's the parental responsibility for ripping them out of their positions and like fixing this for like the innocent children of God that are here that weren't given this pay it forward opportunity and really don't know how to act or react other than like this one Facebook message yesterday, that's 2 days ago, that said, act like you're on the outside of Noah's Ark, fighting your way in, you're third in line, and it's starting to rain. I mean, that probably is the only piece of advice, and it was from something on Facebook I don't even know how to quote properly. So this is what, after I go to Woodside, which is inside of Queens yesterday, which is inside of New York, which is where I am. Because again, where state boards exist, I have no idea these answers. Um, and then I turn on the television, and some of the people, the persons that are now in New York, look very similar to this, although they're not walking around the streets with rifles. Thank God for that. But it's still from sitting inside Lewis's vehicle as he is driving around these areas inside Queens on the island. It reminds me very much, how do I talk about it? Do I, like, if I'm on an island surrounded by water, but it's land, this is a ship surrounded by water, and what does it look like? And like, what's the appropriate level of communications? I don't even know. But luckily, there's no weaponry at the moment, walking around with like AK-47s or anything. But I could see how somebody might at theater, like, this is very relevant, but I don't know if the population's the same. So they're referencing this one from the US side on the World News Tonight. And they say they're Iran backed militants. But again, these people coming over the borders, I don't know where they're coming from, and I don't know what's pushing them into this position. So here's this.
In Yemen, we asked Iran's foreign minister about the targeting of commercial and U.S. Navy ships. Are those attacks you support?
This is the decision that the Yemenis have made in support of the people of Palestine. I think what they did and their decision is a brave one.
But the minister denies Iran is giving Houthi rebels weapons.
And again, the healthcare system at Northwell Health, the doctor that they assigned me Sedkey for the nephrology looks kind of sort of like this gentleman. So that's it. It's I don't know if it's for real, because that only is associated with one person for me. That very key term. Like, I know you are for real, but that's like a very, I don't know, is that a her terminology? It's for her only. Um, I'm going to pause this for a second. Gail King had on some interesting thing about dating. Apparently, she's able to make it to the White House. I have not been invited necessarily. I don't know. I guess, what, did the invitation get lost in the mail? But I thought it very interesting because then she goes, well, she does this whole spiel. And I'm going to pause this for a second because shipping and cargo seems really, really important at wherever they fight. But land management is being affected. And not that I consider myself management necessarily, but when it comes to speaking to George Washington as like that's the only general, and then there's the first president, and on the back of it it says ONE and in God we trust, and not knowing how to get clean lines of communication through to whomever needs it, who looks over land management and my personal sovereignty and like security within this US Constitution, with bills of rights. But I don't want that to be bastardized either, playing some other possible game that, um, like in the trust, where is the trust is really where I'm at the moment. I feel like I want to build Superman up to be the most important person for my safety and my son's safety. But I'm looking at what happened with the marriage to Jason and then the marriage to Anthony, and I just feel like the butt end of a very cruel joke, because neither of them fit what I needed. They weren't doors that were opened. It very much felt like both of them were doors slammed right in my face to make sure that I wound up destitute and in a dead-end life. Now, on CBS, Linda and Lewis always on Sunday morning watch Jane Pauley, and Charles Oz. I think I don't remember his last name, but the trumpets is what I always remembered hearing on Sunday mornings. Um, and then it was church and the trumpets and breakfast together as a family. And so he died. He just passed away, and they did a tribute to him. Now, he grew up in New York in the Bronx. They had milk trucks, they had a milkman, and just the black and white photos. When I fast forward to when I go out in the streets, and I wasn't even in the Bronx, although I've gone recently, not following Tia Frio because of whatever and whatever, but trying to keep my distance from him as well. But Bronx no longer looks the way that the photo from when this gentleman was growing up there. It's changed drastically and not necessarily for the better.
Colleague broadcaster Charles Osgood. For decades, he was the host of CBS Sunday Morning and the iconic voice behind the CBS radio show The Osgood Files. He died yesterday at 91. Sunday Morning's Jane Pauley remembered his remarkable career.
Good morning. I'm Charles Osgood, and this is Sunday Morning.
He was the admired, yet approachable host of Sunday Morning for more than 22 years.
The Osgood File. This is Charles Osgood.
And that reassuring voice of CBS Radio's The Osgood File for nearly 46. Charles Osgood knew his was a storied life. Born Charles Osgood Wood in the Bronx, he grew up in Baltimore. He remembered it this way.
In 1942, milk was delivered in bottles. The mail was delivered twice a day. And that boy named Charlie Wood had a paper route.
In the 1950s, he served 3 years as the Army Band's announcer.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
He had a love of music.
You are only as old as you feel.
So he grew up in Maryland, actually, is what it says. Now, I'm going to pause this and go back to this dating episode that Gail mentions. since there's some big thing going on. And I'm trying to listen to hear what Trump is saying. Biden is very muted and in the background at the moment. Not sure what that's about. As far as how are they, because it just feels like there's just so many different boards of gameplay at this point. Um, Transportation seems to be a very big one. But again, lineups and matchups, it's not it's not easy to follow along at all. And it's just, where do I go for, like, they said Charles was born to, like, storyline. Like, what was the storyline here in New York? Like, where, if they knew where the storyline was headed, why wasn't I, like, rerouted to wherever women who wanted to have children and wanted to have a nice marriage and wanted to continue that American dream, why was it not available by the time I arrived in 1978? So I'm going to pause this and they're going to go back to this dating conversation. Okay, so they're talking about the CBS Presents 25th Anniversary Super Bowl Soulful Celebration. And then it goes into this interview with Gail.
Cedric the Entertainer and Tachina Arnold on Saturday, February 10th, 8 p.m. right here on CBS. Mm-hmm. All right, so Gail, you spoke with some former NFL players on the Pivot podcast.
Yes, I had a great time.
Yeah, I could tell because you were posting all about it on your Instagram. Your conversation about dating is making the rounds this morning. Everybody's talking about it.
We talked about many things, Vlad.
We got a clip.
Talked about many things.
The host, they had to explain to you, Gail, because you're so humble, that you are a big deal, and some men might find that intimidating. Listen to this. Guys, take notes.
I just want to go back to dating real quick, right?
I love talking about dating.
Yeah, so you was like, one thing you want in a man is like, if you want to be able to take him to the White House.
Yes, to the backyard barbecue.
Right, so yes. I could say.
And they're comfortable in both spaces.
Most people, like normal humans, they don't go to the White House.
Okay.
So like,
I don't go to the White House all the time,
because I won a Super Bowl. The way you throw around names. Okay, so I'm at this wedding, and when Michael Jordan comes through, the sea just parts. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be lucky to be somewhere with.
I don't want to sound like
with Marcus Jordan.
It's only top of mind.
After that, I called Maya Angelou to get her ideas on this. Is that so?
And then Oprah told me, girl, it would have been better if it was 40,000.
I called these two guys.
Now we've taken a turn. This sounds so bad.
With your friends.
With your friends. What's interesting is I'm actually doing a story on this. I'm doing a story on matchmaking and finding love. And I was interviewing someone yesterday who talked about the fact that there are a lot of men these days that find successful women intimidating. Women are graduating college at a faster rate than men. And it's even starker when you look at black women and black men. Black women are attaining college degrees. They're entrepreneurs. They're starting their own businesses. And men are remaining sort of stagnant. And that has led to this power imbalance that these guys are talking about.
But all I know is when it comes to dating, they say black women and Asian men are considered the least dateable.
Really?
Yes.
What?
The least dateable. That's what I'm saying. Least dateable, the least desirable. So it's a whole big conversation. I'm glad you're having this conversation.
Yeah.
But I had a great time with them. But Ryan in particular, he did make me think that I'm not going to talk about the people that I know. I'm not going to say White House to barbecues. I'll say black tie events to barbecues.
Shout out to everybody at Pivot.
Yes, Ryan, Janet, Fred, I had a great time.
Now, there's this interesting thing with Wells Fargo. I've been watching the Smithsonian Aerial America with two different covers on it, depending on the episode. I'm trying to learn some form of ISO in order to communicate about and around, and not knowing who's involved in it, but it having some whatever. And then there's this, I found out Fargo is in North Dakota. they have some mention of a Red River. There's another Red River reference. This Breaking Benjamin, I call it a cover band. I don't like, is that the right for my son? I listened to the anger of my children who arrived in whatever year they arrived in, to this area of New York. And then I try to watch the gameplay from that vantage, because now Wells Fargo put out this commercial, which I don't have queued up. I have a different one. But they keep talking about Fargo in some AI commercial. And now it's mentioning shoes. And I'm just, again, sitting here with an actual physical broken ankle, for which the board certified surgeon told me I was royally screwed. Not sure where that fits into things. It's a plate with screws, and I'm on crutches. And when I look on Google, it says it's a major surgery.
Ping pong, a movie, karaoke, and 2% cash back on what you need.
No. Just my shoe.
Like maybe shoes without laces.
Just my shoe, folks.
The Wells Fargo Active Cash Card. That's real life ready.
The company goes to the firstborn Audrey. The model train set is entrusted to Todd. Mr. Marbles will receive recurring deliveries for all of his needs in perpetuity, thanks to AutoShip from Chewy.
I always loved that old man.
What's this say about the summer house?
Yeah, the beach house. The summer residence goes to Mr. Marbles.
Plot twist.
I'm sorry, what?
Doesn't make logistical sense.
Unbelievable.
Pets aren't just pets. They're more.
You got a train set, Todd.
Save 35% off your first auto ship order at Chewy.
Now, is that, because I don't know where it's coming from or where that's going, is that part of the Up and Up? Or is that like Sue? Or it's like one of those boards that I'm just doing like the silent treatment, I suppose. That's what I've been given, is like this silent treatment. And I noticed that the ship that they keep showing is something called Galaxy Leader. And somebody mentioned yesterday, CBS is something called a Tiffany network. I know that they say when you want to fight, is that a tiff? Again, something I just learned. I'm just trying to pull some of these pieces together, but like, again, without any sounding board, it's really difficult to even, I don't know. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. Oh, and part of the other thing is that they had in something called a write-in in New Hampshire. I don't know what that's about. I never even heard of it. Then again, I've never heard of caucus either. I really don't know what that's about. I think that's, they all get in a room and they have to raise their hands. That's about as much as I could have figured out. So you see thy neighbor. New Hampshire has this write-in with like you have to write Biden. Biden's not even on the ticket, and he's the seated president at the moment. Not sure what that's about, or whose children and what they're teaching, and what schools these children are going into. But it also seems concerning that while I was growing up, they were already shipping future problems to almost give me the silent treatment and hurt me while I was growing up. Um, and then this inability to get out of where I grew up safely in the safe harbor is also a problem. Because if they were planning on tanking New York and they were using foreign assailants integrated into the law schools of this area to essentially build policy to imprison me and to hurt me even more, that is of great concern. Because when I hear the lawyers on the television on News Nation talk about when she was in law school, they already wrote the policy for razor wire at the border. I wasn't given that I wasn't given that kind of voice. I wasn't able to put that level of opinion or judgment down on paper. But I'm at effect of all these decisions, of all these upcoming events that it seems they knew about in other people's law schools. I don't know where Dan from Study Hall in Yale is. I don't know whatever happened to all of the people at Rutgers, but Rutgers is New Jersey. It's not a Buffalo Bill school. Is that to my betterment or to my detriment? I don't really know. I'm sports illiterate the way that they have me on some kind of silent treatment, like running into strangers of utmost importance in their category, but not really knowing who they are when they approach. Yesterday, not last night, um, actually, it might have been last night. One of my son's friends from public school that he goes to, where he's surrounded by not us, and they have up on the doors of some of the surrounding houses, like other written language and other colors. Um, they have, my son made a friend, and his aunt or uncle drives around famous people. And so my son comes and says, Mom, look at this, Ryan Reynolds. And I'm like, whoa. And I'm thinking to myself, is that like 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon move? Because Kevin Bacon did cross paths with me and my son just recently when we had to go to New York City. He was walking by the yellow school bus that we were on, in like, I mean, famous people do exist, and we do cross paths with them. He's one that I would recognize by face. Some of them, I, but um, it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.